All right, so number one favorite bands. Everybody knows mine, I think. You all know
It's
it.
Led Zeppelin.
Close.
Really?
Ozzy?
Closer.
Oh, it's Black
Closer.
Sabbath. Fuck.
Black Sabbath.
yeah.
You were
yeah.
talking about Led Zeppelin so much. You just did the video on them. I didn't. Fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Yeah, I did a review of that craziest concert film ever. The song remains the same. The craziest concert film by a major band, at least. But anyway, Black Sabbath is my favorite because, they were one of the first bands I got into, aside from like Metallica. Black Sabbath has so many different chapters in their history because there's the Ozzy years, and then there's the Dio years, and there's Glenn Hughes and Tony Martin. And then they would reunite periodically with all the different singers. And first of all, Tony Iommi is my favorite guitar player because he has this very relaxed but heavy tone to it. Just the sound of his guitar, I think, is like the best guitar tone that I've ever heard. It just has a certain character to it. And what's so cool about Black Sabbath is that their whole catalog and everything they've done just sounds like an accident along the way, because they would just, 50 years ago, like more than 50 years ago, they started and they just got fucked up and they just did whatever they wanted. They didn't really think too hard about what they were doing. Like, you could just tell when you listen to it how spontaneous and weird it was for the time, especially because there was no other band at that time that sounded like that. And after Ozzy went, then Dio came in and brought a whole new life to the band. So that's just like a whole other band almost. There's even some debate, that they didn't really want to call it Black Sabbath after that, And in fact, they did when they reunited with Dio, like this, not the next reunion, but the reunion after that, when in the 2000s, they called it Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was the name on their first album, even though it was the same lineup that recorded Mob Rules. But anyway, it just sounds like every single change that happened in the band, it was like the show goes on. Like Led Zeppelin, there's a lot of appeal because they never continued past the death of John Bonham. It was always just the same four guys. They didn't let it, after that, there was
a Page Plant tour, which I never got to go to. That was the concert that I was saying that my mom didn't let me go to, and then they never toured again.
Yeah. So there was there's an appeal to some bands that didn't let it, go on too long. But Black Sabbath is just the opposite appeal, where it's like they just did whatever they could. It's like, okay, we don't have a drummer anymore. What do we do now? Okay, it was just every album was just filling in people and figuring out what to do. And even though they weren't as popular in the 80s and in the 90s, like there's something really cool to it, that it's more of an underdog type quality. Like they're the ones that started it. They're the ones that started, metal. Even if they weren't really metal themselves, they were like proto metal, and then all other bands kind of followed, and it evolved since. But yeah, like I compare Ozzy and Dio to like Shatner and Patrick Stewart, because on Star Trek, you know how Captain Kirk is like, he's the classic captain. He's the one you think of. Just like Ozzy, he's the classic singer of Black Sabbath. Both those guys, they have their own character. There's something really unique about them. But, Patrick Stewart is more of a classically trained actor. And Dio also is like a more classically trained singer. So like Dio is like the better singer of Black Sabbath, but, Ozzy's always the classic one. But either way, it's like every one of them brings in a new chapter and new life to the band. So that's my number one. Oh, one last thing I want to say about number one, since John's here, actually. We went to see Black Sabbath at Ozfest 2001.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, it was Manson, Slipknot, and
Disturbed.
I remember Disturbed was there. I had just turned 21, and that was the first time I was drinking at a concert.
Yeah.
And what's really funny...
I had to deal with that.
Yeah, to deal with that. Yeah.
You were throwing up on the side.
Was I?
I think so.
Oh,
That might have been a different concert with a
Well,
different person.
I know I've thrown up at different concerts. I remember throwing up at that one, but yeah, I can see it. But here's the thing. That concert is on YouTube. And here's what's really funny is like I one time was just looking up that exact concert. It's like, okay, Black Sabbath has the same date, same venue. I'm like, wow, that's the one we went to. The camera angle, first of all, I don't remember who the hell was bringing cameras into concerts, because at that time you didn't have phones. It was like, you'd have like a VHS camera or something. So I don't know.
Probably one of those little guys.
It was probably the ones with this little screen.
Yeah,
outside where it's
exactly.
with the
Yeah.
little VHSs in them.
But either way, when you watch that, like it's a similar angle to how I remember. I'm like, that must be near where we were. So I'm like watching it and like listening to it, and like at one point I heard a laugh, which was had to be your laugh. I'm like, that's John. I know that's got to be John.
That's hilarious.
And then after that, at some point I heard some drunk asshole just screaming, Ozzy! And I'm like, oh, fuck, I think that's me. Oh, God.
Could have been.
Yeah.